Matthew's got you now. Hello. Say hi.
When he started taking that medication, it was like something dark came over him.
There was definitely a difference within a month there of kind of just a huge wall went up.
He wasn't really talking a lot, kind of tight-lipped.
Just becoming more detached. He became more isolated, wasn't at school a whole lot.
He was skipping school a lot more. He was losing a lot of weight.
He's spending way too much time downstairs in the basement, you know, watching TV and doesn't want to do anything.
We had come up to the door and asked him if he wanted to go to a movie or go out to lunch or do something to get out of the house, and he was very short. I didn't want to do anything.
He told me to get out of his room and close his door. And he'd never said that to me before. But it's like he wasn't comfortable in his own skin.
It was like he had 50 cups of coffee and he was starting to get spooked about who's here and am I safe and all of these things that were almost like playing mind games on him, if you will.
He just didn't feel like he was in his right mind anymore. He didn't understand what was happening. He thought this medication was supposed to be helping him.
And I remember recognizing the look on his face as, it's hard to describe, that nothing is okay. You know, there's no future, just complete despair and sadness in his eyes.
In the last few weeks, I've had to face the fact that all this drugging of children isn't happening by accident. The drug advertising is everywhere, and it's obvious. But the real surprise was to see how heavily psychiatric treatment is being pushed in our schools, right under parents' noses.
This wasn't the case for Matthew, obviously, but I do know that they are starting to screen children in school for mental problems or things that they perceive to be mental problems anyway. Sheila, you have experience with that, don't you?
My son was 7, and he was in school, and I was getting a lot of phone calls from the school about his behavior. So they did this checklist on him, and I didn't know anything about this checklist, but I took it home and I had to fill it out, and it was all on his behaviors. Does your son get sad? Does your son, just simple little questions that any child would do. Any child would do. So based on that checklist that I filled out on my son and they filled out, they diagnosed him off of a checklist that he had ADHD. And I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, what does this mean? My son's mentally ill, he's only 7, And
You had no experience with that beforehand, right?
No. My son was, very talkative. He started talking at 10 months, and he was all personality. And I could remember sending him off for the first day of school. I have the pictures. He was so excited to go to school. But then all of a sudden, when they got him on this behavioral chart, he hated going to school. And he came home and he was upset, and he just didn't like school. He hated it.
And at 7 years old to hate school, that's a crime, actually.
And then they said, you really need to try him on ADHD medication. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm not doing it. The bottom line is I had no idea how subjective that checklist was. If I had known, if somebody had said, this is just our opinion, it's not really a medical diagnosis, I never would have filled it out on my own son at 7.
Do the parents know that this is being done in the school? Do they have to give permission for their child to be screened? Or are they automatically being screened?
The way they do it where I live is really pretty backhanded. What they do is they come in and talk to kids in high school. So, are you feeling kind of anxious?
Right.
Have you broken up with a boyfriend and it's made you sad? Why don't you take this screening and we'll see what the underlying problem. They're teenagers. So the kids have to bring a form home. It does have to be signed by the parent, but the parents say, okay, honey, if it would make you feel better, go ahead and have it done. I had a friend whose daughter went through this. The screening gave her a diagnosis. Now, this is from a computer check-the-box screening. Gave her a diagnosis of depression. So then she took home a paper, look, Mom and Dad, I'm depressed. And they said, no, you're not depressed. So then they took her to another doctor who then thoroughly evaluated her and said, oh, she's not depressed, she has ADHD. And they put her on medication for ADHD. And the mom said to me, but I'm so glad she had the screening because now we know she's not depressed. Oh.
They did treat it the same way.
They did treat it the same way. They did.
What they do in my son's school is they do pretzel breaks. They come in, the school psychologist comes into the classroom and we're going to talk about how you feel. And it could be in science. It could be in math. It could be in any class. So you have a captive audience. Your child is just there and has no ability to say, I want to opt out of this, you know. And then they give out pretzels to the class and there's like, how are you doing? How's things going at home? Have you ever felt like killing yourself? Have you ever? And all of a sudden they're in the classrooms in math and science, and that's what I have found in my school. And you know, the bottom line is it's like they're taking a big net and they're just gathering up the children with these questionnaires. And then when they get the kids in there, they drug them. And that's not the kind of society we want to build.
I couldn't believe this was happening, and in our own schools. From a single 10-minute multiple-choice computer test, they can judge you at risk for suicide and send you to a psychiatrist. And one well-known study said that 91% of all children going to a child psychiatrist leave with a prescription. The only problem is, the psychiatrist who wrote the questionnaire for the largest children's mental health screening program in the country has admitted that 84% of the time the test is wrong. But by then, the damage is done, as I learned from educator Kathy Brown.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Celeste.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Appreciate it. I don't understand how, you know, these young children, especially that are being put on for ADHD and bipolar and whatever else they're being, you know, labeled with. How do these children learn? How can they function in school?
My observation is that they just don't. They can't. Basically, what I see is they can't concentrate, and they, as you said, fall asleep. They have stomach upsets. They have, you know, out of the maybe 300 side effects on one of those drugs, they'll have 4 or 5. It makes it difficult to study. It makes it difficult to study if you can't sleep.
It just frightens me and makes me wonder what's going to happen to the next generation. What's happened to these children that are all being drugged right now? Where's our society going with this?
That is an excellent observation, because the children who are active, curious, interested children are the ones who are most likely to act out in school. The very brightest get bored. You know, they finish and everybody else is still working on something and now they have nothing to do. So, they look around. What can I do? Who can I talk to? You know? Albert Einstein, if he were a child now, he was extremely bright, as everybody knows Einstein. He had difficulties with learning the way that teachers taught. His mother took him out of school and homeschooled him.
Didn't they actually think he was retarded for a while? Or?
They did. That's exactly right. If he were in school now, he would be drugged. We are taking our brightest children and drugging them.
I mean, that to me, it's appalling, and it's frightening.
It is.
Where's it going to stop?
I don't see it stopping unless we do something about the drugging of these kids. If somebody had come in from some other country and said, I'd like to have all of your brightest children, please. I'd like to put them all on drugs, and we'll make it more difficult for them to learn, and we'll make it so that, you know, they're not so interested in things, and we'll make it so that they have difficulty sleeping. What would we have said? You know, we would have said, get out of here. But instead, we're doing it ourselves. And it's very, very sad.
Well, it's frightening to think what we have to look forward to right now.
It is, so we just need to do something about it.
What Kathy told me about Albert Einstein made me curious. She was right. Einstein was very quiet, didn't do well in school, and didn't even speak his own language fluently until he was 9. His parents thought there might be something mentally wrong, but they didn't do anything to him. And look how he turned out. Now we're told that famous people like Winston Churchill, Abraham Lincoln, Sir Isaac Newton, Mozart and Beethoven had mental disorders. What if they had been drugged like Matthew? 8 million young people are currently on some type of ADHD medication, which experts say is chemically very similar to cocaine, comes with some pretty scary side effects, and is very addictive. Makes you wonder how many geniuses are being destroyed every day.